I've fallen and I can't get up. That's what we're talking about today. We're going to address the topic of how to, I guess, put in place some tools when it comes to mobility, strength, and I guess awareness to prevent us from, let's say, falling. But in the event that we fall, because it's going to happen, it's not the worst thing in the world, so we might as well prepare for it. And then we'll be ready, and the best, I guess, way to prevent something is being ready for it, right? So we're going to look at, I guess, what we need in our hips from a mobility and a strength standpoint to help us get up off of the floor, and also a little bit with regards to what we need in our shoulders to get up off of the floor. And then the side benefit to this is what we're going to learn about basic shoulder stability is simply good for everything else that we need in our life, and that goes for our hips as well. So we do need certain range of motion and certain strength through that range of motion to have healthy, strong hips that let us walk or run or ski or climb stairs or get out of a chair, easily get up off the toilet, either now or 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. So plan ahead. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to describe, I have simply gleaned from Tom Morrison. He's a physiotherapist in the UK, and he's got some good stuff. So we're going to start with a basic movement when it comes to mobility, where we're simply sitting on the floor, and hopefully we're able to get up off the floor after we're done here. So I'm leaning back, and all I'm doing is just kind of rolling everything from side to side, okay? This is a good warm-up movement for the hips as well as the knees, and I'm just seeing what this feels like, all right? So leaning back on the hands, and right out of the gate here, I'm pushing into the floor with my hands, and that is using some really important shoulder blade stabilizer muscles already. So just by leaning on my hands, I am creating strength in my shoulder blades. All right, so that's what that looks like. Now, if we take that to the next level, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in a what we call a 90-90 position. So roughly my knees aren't at 90 degrees, but you get the idea, okay? So from this position, right, we're testing our mobility right out of the gate, okay? So my left hip, bum cheek, is firmly planted on the floor. And if my right hip has really good mobility, my right bum cheek should also be on the floor. If this right hip is tight, I'm going to be kind of turned to one side, and there's going to be a bunch of space here. So you can do a little check on yourself. Is the right bum cheek on the floor or not? It should be. And if it isn't, the next kind of rolling exercise we're going to do is simply trying to get the bum cheek to touch. If the knee pops up, that's okay. In a perfect world, bum cheek touches, knee touches, everything's flat. I am not demonstrating lack of mobility just for the sake of an example. I am lacking some mobility here. So all I'm going to do is just rock my bum back and forth, okay? And I'm not pushing anything too vigorously. This right knee is being twisted a little bit, so I'm just being cognizant of not pushing that beyond my comfort zone, okay? And that's my little mobility exercise for my hip. Now here's the next test. We're going to switch sides, but how? Can you, without using your hands on the floor, can you float your feet in the air and flip and switch sides? Okay? If you can, good for you. If you need to use your hands to get there, well, then you need to use your hands. But that's the next test. And that's also one of the exercises. So let's try the other side. Is this side the same or is it different? Again, my right bum cheek is firmly planted on the floor. Left bum cheek, oh, there's some space back there. So I'm just going to rock back and forth a little bit. And I'm not going to solve this today or even after a week. This is a daily process, all right? And if I was to show you this same video from me a year ago, it would even be worse than what it is right now, okay? I'm going to give my rating a score of about maybe a 6 out of 10 with regards to mobility here, okay? Maybe a 7. We'll see. All right. So now we can try that switch. You're going to switch sides in the best way that you possibly can. All right. Now lifting the hips, rotating the hips. Feet aren't touching the ground as you do that. That's all strength at end range. So really useful. Again, if you need to use your hands to get there, then use your hands to get there. Note how you can do it today, and then as you practice, you will be improving. Okay? All right, cool. Next thing. Now, this I need my mat for sure. Just because the carpet in my office here could also be flooring for an industrial garage. So, all right. All right, and this thing inflates nicely. Okay, so now we're going to do another exercise, and this is working on mobility, but definitely strength. The strength is the big part here. All right, so I've got my left leg in front. What I'm going to try to do is simply come up onto my left shin. So here we go, and I'm going to gently turn to my left a little bit, and there I go. This position isn't typically challenging to hold, but getting into it is. Now I'm going to sit back down. All right, that's my exercise. So right now my hip is in external rotation, and as I push my shin down, I'm using the rotation of my hip, my external rotators, to actually lift myself, okay? And then eccentrically, those same muscles are working to lower myself. Here's the challenge. If you need to use your hands to help to get up, then you do. If you need your hands to help lower yourself down, then that's where you are, okay? If you need to just use a little bit of momentum, that's okay. If when you sit down, you flop a little bit, that's okay. But our goal is to be able to very slowly, without momentum and assistance, rise up, whoa, hold that, and then here's the next one. Lower ourselves so gently that if we're going to sit on a carton of eggs, they're not going to break on us. Very slowly. Yeah, cool. And then we're going to switch sides. So we're going to switch however we find it comfortable. Oh, lots of core work there. And then the same thing here. Push up, relax, and then sit down as carefully as possible. And you would do this maybe 3 or 4 times on your first day. If that feels okay the next day, then maybe you do it 5 or 6 times. Maybe work up to 3 sets of 10 repetitions on each side, okay? But always wait until don't do too much today. See how you feel the next day. Are you really sore? Well, maybe you did a little bit too much. Take a day off and then resume, okay? So that's the really important hip rotation strength that we need to have healthy hips, and then specifically, how do we get off the ground, okay? Now, just to address that issue, so we've fallen and we can't get up, so we're either face down or face up. We can typically roll to a position where we're now face up, okay? And so there's a term that's used in some martial arts and in some combat situations where you're on the ground, your assailant has knocked you down, you're in maybe a fight for your life, or simply you're in a competition of some sort, and you need to get up. One of the mantras that they coach is just first get to a knee, get to a knee. That's the step number 1, or get to a hip and then to a knee, and then you can eventually build your base and get back up. Okay, and so part of that is, from lying flat on your back, right? You might get to what they call get to a hip. So get on a hip. So roll to the side. All right. So now we're on that. Now from here, we're still nowhere close to getting up. So when they say get to a knee, what they mean is we want to get this knee underneath us, okay? And so by doing, if we need to, rise up high enough and then put this knee under us, all right? Once we're here, the other foot can come up, and now we're pretty much home free. That was the hardest part, okay? And the reason that it's typically so hard is that we don't have the range of motion in the joint to go from this position all the way to this position. So that groin typically doesn't have enough range of motion in many of us to facilitate that. Well, we've just addressed that with the range of motion exercises we just tried, okay? And then the other limiting factor sometimes is the muscle on the outside of the hip doesn't have enough strength. So maybe the range of motion is there, but even if we lift up, we might not have enough strength to pull the knee out, okay? And you might have already felt by doing what we've done so far that your hip is cramping, okay? That's because it doesn't have what's needed to function properly, all right? Well, the exercises we just did addresses rotational, the strength in those rotators of your hip to do that. So the exercises that we just did address the mobility and the strength required. From a technique standpoint, now you can simply practice being in this position, like you're chilling, watching TV on the floor. Now, can you push yourself up and get this knee out? Once it's under, we can reposition this easily, grab something, grab something, grab something, and we're off to the races, okay? All right. So there is one final piece to this that we need to have functional, and that is back to the shoulder, okay? And we're not talking about rotator cuff per se, or for sure not deltoids, because who cares about that? So a little bit of rotator cuff, and then a lot of what's called the serratus anterior, which is a muscle that wraps around your rib cage, attaches to your shoulder blade, and it works really good in, I'll say, tightly closing your armpit, okay? So if you've got something really valuable and you've hidden it in your armpit and you don't want it to fall out and you squeeze it closed, that's your SA, serratus anterior. So the exercise for that we can use from this position. We can simply push ourselves away from the ground as far as possible, hold for a second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and put ourselves back down. And again, up. Notice how my shoulder, when I've pushed into the floor, has really distanced itself from my ear. And then it shrugs back up, right? And then it pushes away from my ear. Also notice I've got my arm quite vertical. I want that. I want it straight down, okay? All right, so we're doing some more hip mobility, hip strength, and then focusing on the shoulder. So the exercise is simply from this position, up, and then put the knee, and off you go, all right? And if you've ever learned a Turkish get-up, you're going to see a lot of similarities in here, but that's for another day. So again, hand on the floor, press, get your body up, sit back down, and then press into the floor, bum comes up, and get that knee there, okay? You know the knee is in the right position. If you can take this arm off the ground and nothing bad happens, like you don't fall over, you're there. The mistake people make is they don't put the knee out far enough. It's here. Well, if I take this hand away, I'm simply going to fall backwards. So I need to get the knee out, and then I'm there. Okay? So that is some mobility and strength movements that leads to primarily just really nice, healthy hips and shoulders. And then the secondary benefit, we'll say, back to the title of this video, is I have fallen and I can't get up. The key with any of this is watching the video 10 times in a row will help a little bit. Doing the exercises will help more. Good luck. Have fun.